Okay, so the BBC had an article on a new emoji, the little animated yellow, mostly yellow symbols to express emotions or to personify something when we are communicating online. The BBC had an article on a new emoji that's been designed by a teenage girl. And basically, the emoji features a hijab wearing female. I say female, we don't know if it refers to an adult woman or any female, because there are examples of young girls being made to wear them. There's obviously with this there was very mixed responses as you would expect. This is something that always draws strong responses. So this is my take on it. I have mentioned it a few times before, but I think that so long as this is discussed in the public domain, then it's going to be relevant. The thing that frustrates me most of all when it comes to the hijab debate is dishonesty. There is a fundamental dishonesty from people who want to say that it's entirely harmless. Now, I'll come to that in a minute. I should lay out my position clearly. I'm not against banning the hijab. And in itself, I don't think it's a particularly bad thing. I don't think that the hijab is particularly threatening or anything like that, because I don't think there's any communication issues. A woman wearing a hijab, which is the outer head covering, you can clearly communicate with her. I have one or two hijabi wearing friends, or at least online friends. I can communicate with them. Well, I could see them, put it that way. So, in terms of communication, I don't think it's a problem, and I don't think it's anywhere near as problematic as a burqa or a niqab. The burqa is just an abomination. A burqa, as you may or may not know, is the entire body covering. Um, a niqab, burqa is also known as a chador, depending on the regional variations. But niqab is the face covering where you can only see the eyes. I think, again, I believe that goes too far. Now, the niqab and the burqa, I believe, are problematic. Um, Both, especially the burqa, are definitely used as a way to oppress women, and anyone who says otherwise is simply lying. Um, there were clear examples under the Taliban regime in Afghanistan of this happening. Um, and in ultra conservative Islamic theocracies like Saudi Arabia, there's very clear indications of persecution of women who dare to not wear these. So these are facts. Now, the hijab, there's less evidence of direct compulsion. And there's another important aspect of this that has to be brought in. I noticed that the apologists on the thread were saying, oh, here come the Islamophobic comments, as if Islamophobia is not a word used to silence any legitimate criticism of religious practice. But that in itself is problematic because it's not necessarily an Islamic thing, it's more a cultural thing. Without question, there are Islamists who use it. Um, when they complain of supposed persecution of Muslims in the West, they always use this issue of headgear to say stop attacking Muslims. Yet simultaneously that you hear, oh, but don't attack Islam. It's nothing to do with Islam. So there seems to be a bit of contradiction going on here. If it's nothing to do with Islam, then why get offended on behalf of Islam if people criticize it? That's what I find interesting. Um, you know, there's some very naive Westerners who aren't necessarily Muslims who say, oh, everyone should be free to wear what they like. Well, that in itself is fine. I understand the principle of that. And in principle, I agree with it. But the fact of the matter is, the hijab is used to make a statement. It's not just an item of clothing, it is used to make a statement. There is a clear modesty doctrine in hijab wearing. Now, I'm not suggesting every woman who wears hijab has this attitude. But if you ask women who wear the hijab, what they will usually say is, oh, I'm not forced to wear it. It's something I choose for my modesty, right? Now, if that's their own initiative, or how they feel about themselves, fine. Although I think it slightly falls flat because if the whole point is about modesty, and you're in a non-Muslim country, you're going to stand out more, so it sort of falls flat on that point. But that's what they'll say. It's about modesty. Now the problem is that's a line in non-Muslim countries, but in Islamic countries, it isn't just a choice matter. It's a case of Muslim women who don't wear the hijab are shamed. They're told that they're Western puppets. They're told that they're sellouts, and in the worst case scenario, they're told that they're outright whores. There are plenty of examples of this. And what I find deeply frustrating is the political left, the regressive left in particular, they just don't want to accept any of this. All they can focus on is, oh, it must be bigotry. It's only right wingers who are against it, which again is not entirely true. There are left leaning people who are also against it, and there are plenty of Muslims who are against it. So I think there's a lot of dishonesty in this. People who say it's just a piece of clothing are ignoring the stated purpose of it, which is a modesty doctrine. It's a modesty doctrine. So when you say, oh, you should mind your own business and let women wear what they want, okay, but they should mind their own business and not lecture to non-Muslim women or even Muslim women that they should and shouldn't wear it. Because the insinuation is clear: if you don't wear the hijab, you're immodest. Now, can anyone deny that? I'm not saying that every woman who wears it takes that view. Um, I've known hijabi wearing women who are tolerant towards other women. But the fact of the matter is, in Islamic theocracies and in very conservative Islamic societies, it is imposed. Now, this is not absolutely unique within Islamic countries. Like I said, there's a cultural aspect as well, because it does vary from country to country. But um, yeah, you do get it in other examples. I mean, ultra Orthodox Jews have pretty backward views on what women should wear. Ultra Orthodox Jews have some pretty contentious ideas on that. And I'm sure you could find examples within Christianity. I mean, the Mennonites and Amish communities in Pennsylvania, the women tend to dress what they would see as a modesty doctrine, although you could argue the men do too. Um, so yes, it's not entirely unique to Islam, but it is definitely Islamists who promote this as a political thing. Like if you're attacking this concept of modesty, then you're being Islamophobic. Um, so I think that's absolutely something that can be seen. Um, anyway, I'm going to round this up soon, but my own position is I am absolutely for the banning of the burqa and the niqab. I think they have no place in the Western world or any society. The point about a democracy, the point about, people will say, oh, but I thought the West was about freedom. Well, here's the thing: it's never been about absolute freedom. I couldn't strip naked and go and walk through a shopping center. I'd be arrested. So every society has rules. Um, And those who say, oh, it's just picking on women who wear these, not necessarily. There are strict rules. If you want to join the police, you can't have political tattoos. If you were working in a school, you couldn't wear like a very outlandish T-shirt, etc. So society has rules. So I just don't buy the whole victimhood thing. I think the French may have been a little heavy-handed about it, like sending burly police officers onto a beach to arrest a woman wearing the burqa. I think it's a little heavy-handed, but um, if the likes of Saudi Arabia and Iran and Pakistan can impose modesty doctrines, why shouldn't Western countries also have rules? Because there's an enormous amount of hypocrisy with those who told the victimhood narrative, and I think a lot of it comes down to plain dishonesty. So anyone who's watching this and your attitude is, "Oh, women should be able to wear whatever they want," I want to see you people being consistent. I want to see you saying, "Okay, we also condemn women who are forced to wear it," because in the Western world that may not be the case, but it is a fact that in conservative Islamic theocracies, women are pressurized into wearing it, and they're stigmatized if they don't. This is a fact. It's a fact. And it's the ignorance of that fact, or the willful the willful dismissal of that fact that I find so frustrating, because these debates are always hijacked by victimhood peddlers, and people say, "Oh, the anti-Muslim bigots are out in force," blah blah blah. These people never, ever, ever defend women who are actually forced to wear it. So as far as I'm concerned, they're moral cards, most of them. So that's how I feel about it. I wouldn't support banning the hijab because I don't think the hijab's necessarily a problem. I think the niqab and the burqa are too representative of oppression of women. So to me, women who opt to wear it have something wrong with them. I think they've got serious mental health problems if you're choosing to wear a moving prison. Um, but it's not just that, it's also a statement of isolation. It's a statement saying, I will not integrate. I am against Western values. That's what it means. And if you want to know what I mean by Western values, I mean things like being able to communicate with someone in a bank, in a shop. Um, I work in a shop, and I'll be quite honest. If I had a niqab wearing customer, I would feel awkward because I wouldn't be able to make out what she is saying. I would hear a mumble. It would be like this. It's common sense. If you have something covering your mouth, you can't hear someone clearly. So it's also insulting to men, incidentally, because it insinuates that if men see a woman's face, then we're all salacious perverts, you know? So it insults men and women as far as I'm concerned. And I would absolutely support the niqab and the burqa being banned. I don't think they have any place in Britain or France or any other Western country. The hijab, no, that's a bit different. However, I do think that this debate needs to be more honest. And I do think that there is a modesty doctrine that needs to be challenged. Finally, if you're a woman who wears a hijab, I'm not against you. I'm not saying you can't wear it or anything like that. I respect your right to wear it. But please also respect the right of those women who don't want to wear it, as some of you do. Okay? Thanks for watching and let me know your thoughts.